Welcome back to the Spiritual Ride. I'm your host, Alyssa LeBlanc. And this week we are talking about connecting with your future highest timeline version of self. I'm going to explain to you how you can connect with that future version of yourself so you can collapse timelines and quantum jump to that reality where there is a version of you already living the life you desire. If you can imagine it in your mind, it exists on another timeline. And if it exists on another timeline and you are living that life, it's absolutely possible for this version of you to live that life. So, I'm going to explain to you how time is not linear. It's not how we think about it, and how all versions of ourselves are communicating with each other simultaneously. This episode comes to me because of two experiences. One, if you've heard my story, when I quantum jumped 2 years ago, I had been having dreams about the life I'm living now for about 3 years. They didn't make sense. They were just fragments of things in my reality that I did desire, but I was not consciously, I guess, trying to create. Some part of my soul was calling me towards it. Anyways, I was having dreams on and off for 3 years, and I get now that it was a higher timeline version of myself calling me home to this reality that I live now that I am so grateful for, and the things that I did to collapse timelines and get to that reality. So that is one reason why I'm talking about this today. Another reason is an experience that I had a couple weeks ago on a hike with a good friend of mine. So, my friend, who is a hypnotherapist, who I will actually have on the podcast next week, we like to go on these possibility hikes. We like to go and talk about what the next level of our life that we're creating, what the next things that we're manifesting, how to collapse timelines between where we are now and where we're going. And if you don't have a friend like this, get a friend like this. These are the best kinds of friends to have because you get to talk through your limiting beliefs, why you don't believe that you can have the reality you want. The only reason we're not living our dream reality is because we have limiting beliefs that say that it's not possible for us. There's some sort of energy blocks in the way, or we are not yet the person we need to be in order to create that life, to create that timeline, to jump to that timeline, to have that experience. Because if we are able to imagine something for ourselves and we have a deep desire for it, that's because another version of us is experiencing it on another timeline. So, anyways, I was on this possibility walk with my friend Tosh, and we're talking about the next things that we're manifesting. And I was explaining to her, the limiting beliefs I was having, what was sort of in my way. And I can't even quite remember what she said to me, but we were talking out all sorts of things. And all of a sudden, I immediately dropped into that timeline where the thing I'm manifesting already exists, where like the thing, it's not a problem anymore. I dropped into that version of me. She was also there on her next timeline of the things she's creating. And I was like wearing different clothes, my hair looked different. And I was very aware that I was in a different timeline. It was only a number of seconds, but the minute I dropped in, I was aware that that version of me was not worried about the things Alyssa right now is worried about. That those problems that I had already been solved. That she was on to like bigger and better things. That her quote unquote problems were like higher level problems. Or I guess I wouldn't even use the word problems. They're higher level challenges because we're always going to have challenges to create our next version of self because as spiritual beings having a human experience, we are here to expand and grow and learn and create like greater and greater experiences for ourselves. And often that comes with challenges. And I think of the challenges as like going through the challenge helps you become that version of you that can hold that manifestation, that can live in that reality, that has the energetic frequency, that has the boundaries, that has the self-worth to hold on to the thing that you're creating. So I drop into that timeline. I'm aware that I'm a higher version of myself. I'm aware that I'm not even worried about these things. And I was aware that I was talking to her about different challenges, that I was creating something new in my life. Crazy. And I dropped out of it and I told her and it was great. And then after that hike, I felt so much better. And for the last couple weeks, anytime I'm faced with not wanting to take action towards that version of self, I remind myself that there's a version of me already living it. So let me explain to you how quantum healing and quantum timeline jumping works. And I'm going to start with this by asking you to think about something. What if your present is not creating your future, but your future is creating your present? What if you are both this version of yourself and the future version of yourself, and you are creating a time loop? Also, with your past version. So, whenever you are connecting with that future version of yourself, that future version of yourself is connecting with you. I always talk about every time I do inner child healing and I heal a past version of myself, I am doing time travel. And I always feel that day that the future version of me is healing something in this reality. That when I make a choice to heal a past version of myself, my future version of self is healing something within me now. What if all deja vus, signs, intuition, and synchronicities are really messages from that future version of yourself telling you that they have already lived that experience? They're dropping in and reminding you that you've already been through this on a soul level, and that it's showing you that you're closer to that timeline that you want to exist in because that version of you has already experienced those things or is experiencing them now. So when you're getting deja vus, when you're getting signs, when you're getting intuitive hits, it's another version of you that's already lived that. Now, when I have quantum jumped the most in my life, I always experience deja vus. I often experience this weird, like, dropping into my body feeling, which kind of is what I felt on the hike. Like, I dropped into a different frequency of reality and then kind of dropped back out. But those intuitive nudges and hints and things that you're being told to do is your future version of self telling you how to connect with them. What if time is not linear? And quantum physics even tells us this. They've done all sorts of studies. Mainly, I'm thinking of I think it's called the observer effect, where they observed waves and particles doing different things, and depending on what people were expecting them to do, they behaved in that way. And there's even been studies where they did studies where no one was watching the study as it went on, but based on what the scientists had expected to happen after the study had been done, those waves and particles acted in that sort of way. So basically, we're affecting the past, we're affecting obviously the present, but the future is really affecting us. Because time is not linear. Like I said, it's like a loop. Like when you heal past versions of yourself, you're also healing this version of yourself because you are now a different version of yourself. When you heal your inner child, you are healing, you change in this moment because you are no longer hurt or wounded by those things. You have a higher perspective of how the universe works. This has happened to me a lot in plant medicine ceremonies where I've had to deal with traumatic things that I went back and dealt with in my life and had to face them. And when I went through that healing, I am now different, and I realized that all those things that happened were actually good because they either put me on the spiritual awakening, they taught me about self-love, they made me choose myself. I now have a higher perspective. So the version of me that when I healed my inner child, I am now different, so I'm now creating a different reality. I know, it gets wild. So back to how you timeline jump. Basically, when you understand that the future version of you is not even really in the future, it's in the present, everything's happening now, there's just these parallel timelines, and that you just need to collapse the timeline to get to that reality. And when you not only clear the limiting beliefs that you have about why you can't have that thing, because that higher version of you does not have those limiting beliefs, and you start to embody the actions, the thoughts, the frequency, the vibration of that version of you, you collapse time and you get closer. And how do you embody those actions? Well, you listen to what your soul is telling you to do. You pay attention to your intuition. You connect and you ask yourself, you ask that version of you what they are doing, what they are thinking, how they are behaving. You ask them what they must believe and what they no longer believe. You ask them who they are no longer hanging out with, who they are hanging out with. How are they spending their time? What are they spending their time doing? What are they listening to? What are they wearing? What sort of energy are they around? And what energy are they no longer available for? You start setting energetic and real boundaries with people, things, places, ideas, thoughts, and beliefs that do not align with that version of yourself. And you actually do collapse time. When I quantum jumped 2 years ago and was getting these dreams about this reality that I didn't understand what was happening, And at the time I was getting the dreams, I was not ready to live in that reality, because if I had manifested those things then, I would not have been able to hold on to them. I would have lost them. I would have pushed them away. I thought I wasn't worthy. At that time, I was doing a lot of plant medicine work and a lot of limiting belief work. So I started changing my beliefs about why I couldn't have these specific things in my life. Simultaneously, while I was doing that, I started cutting things out of my life that were not in alignment. I started actually spending a lot of time alone, but deciding that I had self-worth and started like developing real self-love for myself, and started to realize that even if I never manifested these things I wanted in my life, what was important to me was that I felt good, that I loved myself, and that I was treating myself with high self-worth. And then I did that. And the second thing that I did that I think helped me quantum jump the most was I started to believe in this reality so strongly, because I was like overwhelmed with dreams about it, that I started to realize that these were not dreams, that they were parallel versions of myself telling myself that I could have a better life. And the more I believed it and the more I changed my limiting beliefs, I collapsed time. And within like less than 3 months, my life completely changed. Like completely changed. It was absolute quantum leap. I think of quantum leap as something that couldn't have happened in linear time because it's so fast. And sometimes it seems like we're living the same life over and over and over because we're having the same thoughts and we're having the same beliefs and we're living in the same frequency. So we think that it takes time to make things happen, but it doesn't. It takes changing your frequency and embodying a different vibration, because the parallel universes are existing like all around us. There's parallel universes, so they're parallel, right? But they're on different energetic frequencies, and you're going to align with the universe that you are a match to. And it is possible to like jump into one higher frequency and then jump back if you're not embodied. Like I said, when I was on a hike with my friend, I I dropped into that universe like for a couple seconds, because her and I were talking about possibilities, and I was starting to believe that this universe was possible for me, and I was starting to like feel like that version of me. And I literally dropped into a universe where I was wearing different clothes, my hair was different, and then I dropped back because I wasn't able to hold the frequency. But when you do the work to maintain that embodied frequency, which does include action, when you maintain that frequency, you jump to that reality and you stay there. And it looks like it took all this time and then it happened really fast, but it did really happen fast. It didn't happen because of the 20 years of you doing hard work, or the 20 years of you, I don't know, dating the wrong person and then the person finally changed, or you finally met the right person. No, it happened when you shifted your vibration. So you literally jumped to a universe where you were having a different experience. I even think that we attract different versions of people in our lives based on what frequency we're embodying. That this is so, it gets so like, it gets so out there that basically at the root level, like we're all souls, we're all love, we're all one, we're all connected, we're all God, right? But sometimes we attract people that are really shitty to us, or people that hurt us, to teach us soul lessons or to teach us things. But sometimes we attract people that we have a deep love for that continue to treat us badly because that is what we're expecting, but we're just attracting that version of them where, because that's what we believe we deserve. So we attract people treating us a certain way or treating us well. We attract the abundance that we believe that we're available for and the frequency that we can embody. We attract it based on our frequency, our thoughts, beliefs, and our actions. So if you are wanting to quantum leap, ask yourself, ask that other version of yourself what thoughts they are thinking, what beliefs they have about reality and about themselves, what they are doing every day, and who they are being. Because who you are being is going to determine what reality you jump to. Another time I quantum jumped, which wasn't that spiritual, but when I was 19, I made the choice to move to Los Angeles. That was literally a quantum jump by just a choice I made, by choosing to move where I knew no one. I was just out of high school. You know, I jumped into literally a different place. And it was what I always wanted and it was great, but it was also really hard because I was not embodied in what I was manifesting. I didn't even really know about manifestation then, but that is still a quantum leap. You can make a quantum leap by making a different choice in your life, by quitting a job, by taking a new job, by moving, by marrying somebody. You can quantum leap by a choice. However, if you have not done the healing work and become that version of you that's living that life happily, you may have a quote unquote leap, but it'll be on the same vibrational frequency. You might be in a different place, but you'll still be the same person and you'll still have the same feelings. So when you want to say quantum leap in love, like that is something that I believe you have to do the inner work to love yourself. It's not just about like getting married or dating somebody. If you want a quantum leap to the reality where you have your soulmate, you've got to do the inner work so that you love yourself. And then you're going to quantum leap to the reality that you are with your soulmate and you're happy versus just quantum leaping to a reality where you have a relationship. Because you can just make a choice and be, choose to be in a relationship. And that's like not really quantum leaping. That just came through to say. So, who are you being? What frequency are you embodying? What thoughts are you thinking? What beliefs do you have about yourself and your life? Because reality is a belief. Reality is literally what we believe to be true, is how our reality shows up. Who are you being? How are you vibrating? What do you believe about your life? What are you embodying? What actions are you taking? What intuitive nudges have you gotten since you started watching this video or before listening to this podcast? You're obviously wanting to quantum leap. If you are hearing this at all, there's some version of you that told you to listen to this. What sort of things have been showing up in your reality repetitively for you to pay attention to? Because the universe is always communicating with us. It's always speaking through other people or on the radio or literal signs. We'll see things. And our guides and our future self is always pointing us in a certain direction, but it's up to us to take off the blinders and be aware and notice like, wow, I heard this 3 times in the last week. Or I heard a stranger talk about this and then I heard it on the radio and then I picked it up in a book. Or my soul really wants to do this and I just feel like I want to do this, but I'm scared. Do it scared, because the future version of you has a different comfort zone than the version of you that is now. That's the other thing about taking action as our future self. Oftentimes, when I said I had that, when I dropped into that future version when I was on a hike, the stuff that I'm bothered about in like right now, that version wasn't bothered because she is so over that. Like those things don't bother her. The actions she takes, I right now might be scared of, but I need to start taking those actions and broaden my comfort zone because that version of me isn't scared of them anymore. And you have to take the actions to get out of the comfort zone. The other thing that I really realized, I realized this when I was in Cabo like a month ago. I was meditating a lot, super present, getting all these downloads about quantum healing. This is another thing. There's a frequency where you've already figured it out. And that's the frequency I felt when I dropped into this future version of myself. If you can just start to play with and play in this frequency of, you don't actually have to know how to get to where you want to go. You just have to start saturating your frequency, your beingness, yourself with the frequency of the version of you that's already figured it out. Because once you have made that the frequency that you're living in more of the time than you're not, there will be a tipping point, and the tipping point in your frequency is when you shift and you quantum leap. So if you don't know how to get to that relationship that you want, or that new job you want, or those new friends you want, or your dream body, start to play with and imagine and know that there's a version of you that's already figured it out, and start to let that be your dominant vibration. That is another thing that happened when I started to believe in my dreams so much that it flipped. I started to realize that there was a version of me that was living this life, and I didn't know how she got there, but it didn't matter. I just knew that she had already figured it out, and I just needed to connect with her. So a lot of times after meditation, if I'm wanting to go into visualization, I'll meditate and get in a really quiet space, and then I just start to play with that feeling of oh, there's a version of me that's already figured this out. And like I said, saturate your vibration with that frequency, and it will reach a tipping point where that will be your dominant vibration. And then you don't have to figure it out because the universe figures it out for you. You jump to that reality where you figured it out. And you might be called to take new actions, to go new places, to let go of things, to let go of people, to speak your mind, to set boundaries. All these things are going to come up, but just follow them. Listen to your soul, listen to your intuition. Your future self wants to connect with you as much as you want to heal your inner child. Your future self looks at you like the inner child. It looks at you like, wow, that version of me that's not as happy as I want to be, I want to bring that version with me. Just how we look at our inner child and we say, I wish I want to put my arms around that inner child. I want to show them that things are better now that I can take care of them. The higher version of you is doing the same thing to you now. It loves you and it wants to call you home. It wants to say to you, life is so amazing over here. Come with me, pay attention to me, do what I say. When it's giving you these intuitive hits, it's its way of saying, I've already done this. Just do this. I already did it. It worked. Listen to me. Come with me. Let's jump. Let's go to this reality. It's so good over here. It's so abundant. You're so loved. You're so worthy. I love you so much. It's always saying that to us. It loves us. It loves us. It's cultivated self-love. It's happy. It's showing you how good life is. That was a download. Embody your future self today. Have a beautiful week. You deserve to have everything that you want. Much love.